welcome back to another episode. This is the 12th episode, and it's the same old people. And I don't know what we're talking about, so Saad, explain.
Bro, so lately I've been playing this video game. It's called Horizon Zero Dawn. The basic premise of the video game is civilization like ended, and like there's the remnants of humanity that are surviving. And what did survive of humanity is like these robots, and like they're like they're basically robots that are used to be weapons of the military, and like that's basically how like the world ended, blah blah blah. And it's just like, throughout the game you discover different types of technology, and it's just so interesting for them to like see the technology of that time when like they had um no idea of technology. And then I was thinking about like how generations in the future will think about our technology. And then two other things that also reminded me of this was so there's a short story by Ray Bradbury that we did in English literature. Do you remember? It was
Yeah,
I
The
don't remember
soft
the
the
name.
rain one?
house.
Yeah, the one with the house. And just Google the name quickly. And then there's this anime that I've been watching recently. I know Daniel's also been watching it recently. It's called Doctor Stone. Also in the same thing. It's about how like science and technology can take
Humanity
civilization.
forwards and accelerate like the growth of civilization. Yeah,
Yes. So from there, two things that I was like thinking about was like how different technology will be, like not only like by the end of our lifetimes, like by the time we're dying, like we won't be able to recognize most of the technology. Or maybe we will, I don't know, because there's also like, how there's the law of like what is it, Moore's law, right,
yeah,
Danya? Moore's
yeah.
law is like
That's it.
exponential growth of technology. So there was also this article I was reading about how maybe Moore's law is not a law. Like
It's not
maybe
allowed.
yeah, maybe technological growth is not going to be exponential, and maybe we reach a plateau where maybe technology is not going to develop as much as
Yeah,
we
because
think it
like
will.
basically Moore's law is that the size of transistors will double the size of transistors will half every 4 years, while the cost will also half. So like better technology and cheaper. But then like a limitation it has is that the transistors, which is basically like an on or off switch, so like ones and zeros, but it's become like you can't make it too small, otherwise if it like becomes smaller than an atom, then like it like really like subatomic, like it works differently. So like
There's a limit to
quantum
that, is what you're
physics and
saying.
superposition, yeah. So like it like you can't continue like with exponential
Yeah.
growth if you keep on like making it the same way it is. I feel like a new like for example quantum computers or like
But
neuromorphic engineering, the same like basic computing system won't work.
I think that's more towards like computing power, no? So like it's still
Yeah,
technology is a very broad term, and
Yeah,
yeah, for
definitely.
sure.
it counts
Because
for
there's
a
like
lot of things.
there's also like so much creativity, but Zubair, think about if there is some type of like apocalyptic event, like maybe humanity goes backwards in terms of technological development rather than forward. That's something that like is interesting. Like, bro, did you see the new Rick and Morty episode?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So in the new Rick and Morty episode, they show like how, I mean, there's probably a better example of this, but like this is just something I thought of. Like in the new Rick and Morty episode, they showed how like this one like try like not try like this family like ends
No,
up
no,
like
no. One
technology.
second. One second. You remember the Snake World episode?
Yeah,
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 Is
yeah.
is the same thing. It's like how they developed so much, and
Like
eventually
everyone
they
kept
just
time
went.
traveling.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
just eventually became like backwards.
yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
That even
But
happens in
what's
this one episode of this other show I've been watching. It's called Love, Death, and Robots. It's kind of like Black Mirror, but like every episode is animated. It's literally every episode is like a different it's an anthology series. Every episode has a different premise, but the like it's a sci-fi show. Like every episode has like some really like wacky like premise, and it's like animated in a different style. It's really cool. You should watch it. But
But
even
yeah,
that has an
go.
episode also called alternate histories or alternate timelines. That's also like there's this like rat civilization that like ends. Bro, it's the same idea. Like humanity, we don't really know how humanity or like how civilization is going to be maybe a few thousand years down the line. Like we can't really predict it at all. We think it'll go a certain direction, but even if you look back like at how there were predictions like maybe a few hundred years ago of like what the future, which is like today, would look like, some of them are really like most of them are really really spot off.
Like if you look at
Some of
Back to the
them
Future, they thought we'd have like
exactly, I was thinking about Back to the
flying
Future.
cars, stuff like that. None of that
Yeah.
should happen. Even
No,
though, like,
no,
Some
okay,
of them,
no. But like a lot of the things, even Pele, what they predicted, what we'll have, a lot of those things we have achieved, but in just different forms. It's like
yeah,
they
I
predicted
agree.
these massive machines running everything, but at in the end, everything's done through our phones. We have achieved that. We just had a very weird image of it. We've got robots as well. We've got, well, electric cars that we charge. We just had a very different view on what it would look like. So I
Yeah, like
mean,
flying cars isn't really like a feasible like thing. It's not like something like I can ever actually see happening. Like it just doesn't
probably
make
will. You
sense.
never know.
But like,
Like,
yeah,
I mean, the cavemen probably like sitting on a Zoom call like away from each other. That probably would never
no,
Okay,
have
but
made sense.
the
no,
thing
but
is,
I'm not saying in terms of like I don't think it's possible. I just don't think it's like a feasible option. Like they're much
Well, in
better
our
like
lifetime,
ways.
you know what
Yeah,
I think that this is not about like
yeah.
the wider topic. This is just focused on flying cars. I think if flying cars ever like become a thing, they will not be something that the government will allow you to fly like a flying car would not be autonomously like you wouldn't be able to drive it yourself. Like you wouldn't be able to just fly anywhere like a plane that's like in the size of a car. If flying cars were a thing, it would be completely automated. It would be like a self-driving car, but it would probably also have the ability to fly. And the reason I think that is because I don't think the government would want to give human individual humans the power to like
no, wait,
um
it would be perfect. Like it would be like in Star Wars, there'd be droids on
yeah
each
yeah
like
yeah
flying car.
100%. You just click a button and you reach there, it'll fly you there, but you won't have the ability to just fly like for example some like island without like a visa, or like it would be completely like it would be regulated. It would not be like you wouldn't get to drive it yourself.
Yeah,
So do
no,
you
It would
think
be
there's like certain inventions that if we reach a certain point in advancement in technology, like certain things can actually lead to the downfall? Like you're saying, if we have like
yeah yeah
imagine if
100%.
teleportation is the thing, you could just teleport anywhere, like teleport inside like a bank safe, take all the money.
Completely.
Or like what was
Yeah,
that thing you were talking about? That show where they advanced so much that they just went backwards.
no,
Yeah.
wait. One thing I wanted to say was like this is what I believe. Like technologically and scientifically, we've progressed a lot, and we're constantly going to progress for many years to come. But on an individual level, we've just grown dumber and kind of lost our sense of empathy to some extent. So humans themselves haven't grown that much, but like technologically, we've like I don't know how to explain it, but
have you seen that movie? It's a mockumentary. I think it's called Idiosyncrasy or something. It's a comedy movie. It's really good. I don't remember his name. It's Google it. It's called Idio something. Bro, I keep referencing things that I don't remember the names to, so I feel stupid, but they're good references. Try and like link them somehow.
also one thing, I think like when we were making predictions on what what would happen in the future and all, I think we can make more accurate predictions because the time we're in right now, we've seen the constant changes, and then we can like understand the limitations of what all we can achieve. Like I don't know how to explain this. I don't
Yeah,
think
fine. But see,
flying cars. I don't think flying cars would be a very common thing. Even if it's achieved, it'll be like very minimal.
Like something
Yeah,
interesting about how unpredictable it is. Like I don't know if this will actually become a thing or not, but have you do you guys know about Elon Musk's idea about like underground tunnel system that takes cars
Yeah,
in,
through elevator
yeah,
downstairs?
yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty like it's unpredictable. We don't know what'll like, happen.
yeah. But Zumi, what you were saying, like, the more advancement we have, the dumber we get. So, like, do you mean like right now we don't really question how certain things work? Like, we're just used to like, हाँ ये laptop
Yeah, no,
चलता है,
like
like, we
okay,
have,
okay, let me just explain this. Phones and all have become stupidly expensive, yet we still buy them. And especially if you look at things like high-end phones like iPhones and all, we we no longer think we have an option. So we've I don't know, there's some things we just don't question anymore, and the world is running so fast and everything is so like sped up. We don't take time to sit back and reflect on ourselves, or we don't think about things through. So most of the time we're just following a system that's placed for us. Most of the time we're just following how everyone's acting on whatever they're doing. And yeah, that's that. We don't like Pele, like there were a lot of authors and poets that brought about many changes in society. There were a lot of philosophers and all. I, there aren't many people coming up in those areas anymore. It's more towards science and tech. And even on an individual level, like a lot of time people, like even if you're at home, you're scrolling through Insta, and you know why TikTok and all get a lot more popularity is because it's very short, like fast content. And usually, even
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you're scrolling through, you see something which is slightly slower, you kind of get bored and you scroll through.
yeah. So
Everything's
that
so
happened to
fast
me, yeah.
paced. Yeah, everything's so fast paced. Even now, advertisements are more like popping with like upbeat music and all of that stuff, because our attention spans are so like small now. We don't take time to think, and when we don't take time to think, we don't take time to reflect on ourselves and grow as people. So in that sense,
agreed.
I mean, we are progressing in terms of science and tech, but on a smaller individual level, we're kind of going backwards. We're growing more greedy, more money minded. We it Our society is very selfish. Like
You know, that's why I think, despite the fact that we have access to like all the information for anything you want to learn, like in our fingertips, right? But that's why I still think we still need like a formal education because of that, because of the fact that our brains have been like hardwired to be like, bro, unless you're like a very unique and self-disciplined individual, no matter how much access to information you have, you're not going to be able to like you're not going to be able to like process that information in a way to like you would actually like be able to like become an expert in that field to the extent that someone would trust you. So you still need a formal education, like even if just a syllabus, just something to know. Okay, okay, start go from here to here to here, because of the fact, or and then like have those discussions about it. Because yeah, this thing that you're talking about, now the shortening of attention spans. This is something it's like a scientifically documented like thing. It's a proper thing. It's also to do with how we consume like news. Like journalism around like the world has deteriorated so much, which has caused like, people, like any like there's no such thing as like newspapers anymore. Like newspapers are there, but like they're not like really like like they don't get to create like proper quality articles. Like they don't get to like delve into a topic, a story. Almost all newspapers focus more on their online like websites more than their like digital print media, like their print media now. They only care about their digital media. And like that we get most of our journalism like news, everything from like Instagram, social media, and like you just scroll past it, you just read the headlines. We don't understand like the
yeah,
depth of like what we're reading.
no,
Thing
that
is, that's
that's
how they're
why.
designed also to like just catch people's eyes and like
Yeah,
sell
get
Yeah,
articles.
clicks and
It's
stuff.
yeah.
and it's two things. First of all, I that's also one of the reasons why we're moving backwards is because we can be fed any sort of information, any sort of propaganda, and we'll accept it very fast. Like we won't question it. Like just like what you said, things aren't in depth anymore because I mean we have like very small attention spans. You can give just the briefing and people would like form a solid opinion that okay, that person is the bad guy and this person is the good guy, this
Yeah.
system is
Also,
beneficial and
I'll
all.
give you an
Like there's no
example.
fact checking anymore and
Yeah,
stuff. But
and
like one
the
thing,
other thing
yeah,
sorry, the other thing is that
yeah,
it's such a weird system. Like companies have to produce and people have to produce content which is fast and of this nature because of our like worse attention spans that like reduces our attention span even more, which then forces companies and content creators to even like minimize their content and make it more like upbeat. And so
Yeah,
it's just like a back and forth thing of like making things kind of worse.
yeah. So like
yeah, you
we
have
as a
to give up on your
society, we're just
integrity.
like, yeah, sorry. No, so like you said, we're just craving more content, and they're just dishing it out, like less quality, more quantity, that sort. But at the same time, like, don't you think like now that there's more articles being put out there, now that like Saad said, you can access anything at like a click of a button, don't you think we're becoming more aware to certain things though, like certain stigmas and taboos that were before, now they're being
Well,
talked
because
about,
we're
like mental health?
inundated. We get inundated with there's this quote actually I really like. In the age of social media, it's easy to stand up for what's right, but it's harder to know what's right to stand up for. Because we're inundated, like okay, all these infographics we get, like that's how any social issue, something that's supposed to be complex, like people's like deep stories, such things that bother them, are like reduced to like these infographics, and you're just supposed to like read them, scroll past them, understand like what's right and what's wrong, and just accept it like as face value. You don't get to like go into the depth of like okay, like what is the basis of this, like experience it firsthand. You just you get first forced into this herd mentality. A big example of this I wanted to talk about was we were talking about like headlines, and also at the start when this Uyghur Muslim issue was happening, um so everyone was like very pro Uyghur rights, and I still I extremely am. But I remember I was on Reddit and I posted about the Uyghur Muslims on this left leaning subreddit, and then they were like against it, like they didn't believe in it. So I was really confused. I was like, why would you not believe in this? And then they were like, oh, there's no evidence. And like, I mean, it's come to the point. I do think like okay, like I obviously I'm very pro Uyghur, but when I at that time, so this was like a year ago, I couldn't find any actual evidence of any persecution to any of the Uyghur Muslims. Like the stuff that I do is the stuff that I did find is really subjective. Like it was about like stuff that happened to them, but not from the government itself. Like stuff that happened to them in terms of like racism and stuff that they face. And then other stuff like there was the main evidence that I found was that Muslim names such as like Jihad, Muhammad, they were banned. Another thing was that people outside their houses were not allowed to hang like stuff like mashallah signs, alhamdulillah signs, any like religious like signs like that. So those that was the only sign of like concrete like legislature, like I could easily prove like on the internet with like my 1 hour of like internet detective skills. But I couldn't find any real like proof of like any like concentration camps and stuff. Like maybe now it's like come out, but like US is called the Chinese government as doing genocide and all. So I just think like all of these issues are very like complicated, and even the things that I agree with wholeheartedly extremely, like for example Kashmir or Palestine, like I'm very strongly like I believe in those causes very strongly, but I still think there's so much like I think if you make something like the Palestine issue like one dimensional and just present it in the form of an infographic, then you're just making it easier in a way to like get other people to like not want to agree with you. I don't know if I'm making sense on that, but I just feel like if someone doesn't.
No, no, I know what you mean. Like, isn't just saying like, oh, fuck them, they're like wrong. You can't like you have to explain things, not just be one dimensional about it. Yeah.
And other than that, also I just feel like the talking points that they're saying are like I just think that any like I'm not only talking about like political issues. I also mean like social issues, like with race. Like so many of my friends like that I talk to, like you know how we have a rise in like this type of like humor, which is like edgy humor, which is like really against like social justice warriors and like
Yeah.
kind of xenophobic and racist. Bro, I feel like a lot of the reason that that humor rises is because other people don't understand what the other people are trying to say. So because you're like trying to express like whatever like sexual orientation you have, or you're reducing it to like an Instagram post and you're making TikToks about it, and that's the way you're expressing yourself, it causes people like maybe it's different in like a more like progressive country like America, but bro, over here in Pakistan, from most of my friends don't understand what the fuck they're talking about. They're like, what the hell is this? Like, and I mean, even if I try and like explain it to them, like like it's hard, like you know what I mean, like this type of stuff only like causes it to be worse than like if you post on your Instagram story about like um some the like anything, like any social issue, like something to do
Wait,
with
let me.
But yeah,
Yeah,
Zubi, go.
one thing. Even like when a lot of these like incidents happen, Joby, like some things happen at our school, and there are other like political issues that happen. When so many like so many people put it on their Instagram stories and all, when I usually see it too many times, I kind of stop caring, which is not a good thing,
yeah,
but it shows how, I mean,
Desensitized you get to.
yeah, not just that,
inundation.
but in terms of consuming content, like if I'm constantly being fed the same thing, I'll eventually be like, okay, like what's new? Okay, this is
Yeah,
happening, like so what? And also what Nabil said about like, isn't it good that you're being exposed to so many things? It it's like you read the topic of each chapter in any of a book, like any book, and you go like, oh, I know what this book's about. I mean, you just know the surface level, and then when
yeah,
people
but
form like strong opinions and try to justify what their beliefs when they don't have in-depth knowledge about something, then it's annoying. And when these people share their views, people who've not been exposed to that idea before are exposed to that idea through these individuals, they form the same mentality, and this keeps on spreading. And so just the surface level information causes so many, like, it misleads so many people, it causes so many problems. And because we're used to just like getting information and quickly forming an opinion and then moving on, no one actually stops and goes like, okay, is this correct though? Like, matlab,
Yeah, you probably just see something on Instagram story, click on it, repost it. Like it's just
yeah.
surface level things. I think it's like more of an individual thing though. Like we all should be aware of that and know, like, we should have the skill of finding out correct information, going into it ourselves. Like, do you think it's the internet and social media's fault or the individual's
No,
fault?
I think one thing, this is not directly related to what you said, but
Yeah.
we're kind of better at filtering what may be correct and what's not. If you look at your family groups or whatever, especially if you look at old
Yeah,
people,
for sure,
they
bro.
usually
There's
share things that support their belief of some weird incident happening. Like, you remember there's that Pakistani politician that shared a video of a plane in GTA landing and then taking off,
yeah,
trying to avoid an oil tank.
that's
So
so funny.
people shared that like it was real. Like, I think we're better at filtering what's correct
bro.
and what's not, but it's still not
Yeah,
perfect.
So then,
bro. A
doesn't
good
that mean that we're
example of
getting
like the
better at it though? Like if the youth is better, so then isn't that like a good thing that
No, but
we're better?
the youth is better at it, but they're also being raised in that environment where like bro, like
Coming back to what
uh,
Saad said in the start, how the technology will be so new to us. Like
Can you hear him?
No.
Bro, Daniel, I can hear you.
Your mic, Chara is.
Well, we won't be able to tell what's like true or not. Maybe like how our parents, our grandparents sometimes can't.
I
Bro,
know your
bro,
mic stopped in the
you
middle.
good point, but in the middle, like
Yeah,
Oh,
the
can you hear
middle
me?
mic. Yeah, yeah. Now you can.
Okay.
What were you saying?
Yeah, I'm just thinking like how our parents are sending like such fake things, or like how our grandparents, like all these older people tend to believe in such fake news. But like how Saad was saying in the start, when like the new technology, we won't be able to understand it either. Probably like there's a chance, like if
yeah,
deep fakes, for example, become really developed, or like some new technology that we don't understand. Like if we see a video of something that looked completely real to us, like right now, with like at least a few years ago, a video was concrete evidence. Like in the future it won't
yeah,
be, and we'll still
yeah,
be
yeah.
like inclined to believe that that's concrete evidence, and we'll probably be sending these like fake videos, or like fake
But
Yeah,
I
media. Like
think
we'll
I think
probably fall for it as well.
as these things progress, there will also be better ways of determining whether something is authentic or not. Like it's that same concept that cybersecurity is getting better over
Yeah,
time, but then so are like methods
the
the
of,
hack. Yeah,
hackers.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
like both of these kind of things develop simultaneously, and with deepfakes, um like I don't know if you watch them, but there's this group of VFX artists on YouTube, uh, Corridor Digital. They make videos, and they recently were like experimenting with deep fakes, like 6 months ago or so. They made like a few videos where it showed like Keanu Reeves or like well, uh, well, Tom Cruise and all, and they used deepfake, and it actually looked authentic. And they then like explained how all of these things can be used in the future, to mess with people, like. And it's a this tech has gotten so good that you
yeah,
can very easily in like a political like you can mess with the political candidate using this
propaganda
kind
and
of
stuff.
stuff. Yeah.
Bro, first I was
So,
getting really afraid of like the idea of deep fakes. Like I was thinking about it and like how we will never be able to trust anything online ever again. Then I realized also like Photoshop is essentially the same thing, but the human brain was able to like, I don't know, like we're able to like tell like when something is like photoshopped or not. Like, and not even if we're not able to tell ourselves, like in the comment section, someone will always know this is a photoshopped. So I mean, I feel like we'll we'll still be like exactly what you were saying. The analogy of like how
yeah,
cybersecurity will continue to grow at the same rate as like hackers will, and like there'll always be like the same like um they'll always
yeah,
it'll carry forward
like a
with each other.
balance.
So, yeah, exactly. So same way there'll be this equilibrium between like um deep fakes and this thing. Okay, but one thing that I wanted to say that was related to what I said at the start about how all of the like video game consoles that we grew up with, like the PS3, Xbox 360, the Wii, they're all considered like retro gaming stations now. And the time between the I mean I've never played on the SNES, but like the time between that and the the what generation of consoles was that? Like sixth or seventh? PS3 was like I think like sixth generation or seventh generation, whatever generation it was. The time between that and like the first major like video game thing, the SNES is less than the time between like now and the PS3. And like when we and other than that also, like I just feel like so much technology that like within our own, like we've only been alive for like 18 years, which is like nothing. So even in these 18 years that we've been alive, we've seen technology go extinct. Like I remember when I was young, I used to watch a lot of videos on VCRs, and there's no such thing anymore.
Yeah.
CD players, there's
yeah,
no DVD. Bro, we used to go to HBO, what's it called? These pirated DVDs. We
The
used to
CD
go buy
wallets,
a bunch.
yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
bro,
DVD
DVD
Direct.
Direct, all of these places. We used to get a bunch of movies from them. We used to watch them all night. Now we have Netflix and all, so we still
And no, no,
still
even like that thing of PS5, like a digital version. I found
Yeah,
that so interesting. I was like in
No need for
Pakistan at
CDs
least,
anymore.
yeah, it'll fuck up a lot of people.
bro. At the start, I was like, why the hell would anyone buy a digital PS5? Like you would not be able to buy any discs. Like discs are the best thing. And then I just realized that like, bro, I was playing one of my old games. Um, I don't remember what game it was, but the disc didn't work. That pissed me off, bro. That
Yeah.
really pissed me off. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna buy a digital PS5 now.
Wait,
No,
so like
Yeah,
one
like
and
the
thing, like Danu, you like how you were saying the thing, the chips and stuff, they get smaller, and like how Saad was talking about. Like if you look at the PS1, even though that technology is like pretty old, like it's pretty basic now compared to the stuff we have. Like if it gets kharab, if you have a kharab PS1, like it's harder to find people who can like easily fix it, like and or like the older, like you can't really play an Atari or like the first ever generation consoles anymore. And it just like Saad said, that's this example of like extinction happening, extinction of technology happening, like in front of our own eyes and stuff. So like, do you think we'll ever reach a point where like when in the future when we're older, we'll be like the old people who don't know how to use phones or like
oh
don't know
no,
how to like we won't
that's
be able
what I
to.
wanted to talk about as well. Like I
Yeah,
don't think
just
we're gonna be like that type that can't keep
Yeah,
up with tech.
I agree with that.
like
Like
Also,
probably
just
not
okay.
like a few, maybe not like us four, or maybe like if we
Yeah,
train ourselves to,
exactly.
we're
no,
aware of
no,
it more four. I think like the
like what I mean is,
majority of people will be.
okay,
I don't
no,
know.
cheese, a lot of people our age also don't know how to use their laptops and
That's what I'm saying.
phones
Like the majority
properly.
of people will be like that.
Yeah,
Maybe not
yeah,
like us.
but
Bro,
Like
but the thing
Daniel
is,
is
Ali
talking about
Raza,
it. Bro, okay,
basically.
bro. Another thing, you know, literally, we were actually sitting, we were sitting, and Nabil was like, "Bro, I don't know how to download
yeah,
this software,"
Unnamed,
and then
unnamed.
he
music
was like, "I
software.
want," yeah, he was
Yeah,
like, I want someone to help me download it," and I was like, "Bro, what do you mean? Like,
Yeah.
how it's not hard to like download a pirated thing. Like, just go on Google it, you'll be able to do it." So there's the difference between these hard skills and soft skills. So the hard skills are like the actual like coding,
hacking program. Like that's completely
design,
different
hacking, like
than.
stuff that actually
Yeah.
like is actually like computer skill. I don't know any of that. I'm still like in the eyes of the majority of humanity alive today. I'm probably in the upper like 10% of like
no,
people who know how to use.
I mean from like a consumer point of view. Like like the you see your parent, like my parents aren't, like it took them a long time to get used to these phones and how to use them properly, and even now they have some difficulties. My grandparents are way behind them. I think we've been born in that time that we've seen so much change and everything's happening so fast. I think we'd be able to keep up with it. And as Danu said, like
What I think,
there's a limit, like physical limit to these um like these hardware like parts. Like there's a physical limit like to each one of them. Technology will advance to that point, but after that it'll kind of like,
I
progress will
I
kind of
think there'll
slow
always.
down.
I think it might slow down for a while. I think there'll always be like some new way. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
there'll be
that's true.
creativity.
uh,
But regardless, I think okay, the one of the reasons why we will be better at developing and adapting to new technology is because we know the importance of it. Our parents, if they were like aware of like the new developments in the phone before they like were forced to use it, then they would be better at it also. We are in that generation that we always continue to like I don't see us or the majority of people our age being like 60 and not knowing how to use whichever new software comes out, because we will be buying it, we will be interested in it, we have that thing. I think the way that our older like parents don't know how to use like new types of phones and stuff, I think we'll be lost at like social media, like all the new social medias are coming out and stuff. I think we won't know what the hell is happening. And like there'll always be this divide between generations. So just because we're going to be good at whatever like new technology comes out doesn't mean that we're going to be like hip or like
like you know how
there's
you
not going to be different people more than
mentioned
us.
with the, you know how you mentioned with like the Wii, how there was like more of a difference between the Wii and the PS5 and the SNES. Like we've already had to do this. Like we've already had to adjust to new technology. Like the
Yeah.
PS5 is so much more complex than the PS2. When we were young, we had bad
We
phones.
went from button
Yeah,
phones to touch screens, yeah.
like
Yeah,
we've already gone through this. Our parents, our grandparents never went
they
through
didn't
like
have
such
that.
a
Yeah,
crazy change. Yeah, like
yeah,
it
yeah.
was probably the same for like like maybe small advancements over time. Like we've already gone through it, so we might never have to
You think we'd ever like when we become, let's say, grandparents, do you think our grandchildren will have forgotten that skill of writing, like with pens and all, because everything just becomes digital? Do you think that'll
I
ever
don't know.
happen?
I don't think they'll ever stop writing, but before I get into my actual thoughts about this, did you know this actually happened in China? Like this actually happened in China, because what happened was that in China, the script that they use, instead of like having letters mean like sounds, each character is supposed to be a word, and then those words are used in like conjunction with each other. So um, when they ended up making they were because of that, it was really hard for them to be able to like type Chinese, because this you would have to create a keyboard Chinese which is like this, like it's too big to be able to use. So what they ended up doing was they created this new like typing style. It is a bro, again, I reference things, I don't know the details of it, but like there's this specific keyboard language that was made to use Chinese. What ended up happening is that um the younger generations have stopped remembering the original meanings of those like characters, so they don't remember how to write like in traditional Chinese. They just remember in the like the the style of like the keyboard typing, which is like completely changing the way that people are in China like type and write.
um
I'll
something
let
like
me.
related to that could be it's going a bit off topic of what Zubair initially asked though, so like you'll just make it short. Like even right now, like people like for example JBH or like lol, people have been just starting to say that in real life because we say it online because it's shorter. Like it's
Yeah,
it's interesting.
One of things that got added to the dictionary, now like an emoji or something got added to the actual like
Yeah,
not whatever. But another thing that I want to talk about, like how right now we have technology, everything is like recorded now. Like all the pictures that we have, it's digitally recorded, all the text, all the articles. So isn't that weird though? Like how people, like we couldn't know how people looked like 1,000 years ago. We wouldn't know our exact ancestors and relatives, but now we have like a way to actually see like people in the future, like 100 years from now, can see exactly like how their grandparents or great grandparents led their lives, how they were as a kid.
yeah, like they're
yeah,
documenting
that
things
This is not
essentially.
related to what you said, but I you know I don't know how to pronounce it properly, but Veritasium, the
yeah,
Yeah,
YouTube
yeah.
channel. Yeah. So the guy in that was talking about, or it was Vsauce, it was talking about time travel. And it was like, we technically can, because when you watch these videos of like olden times, you kind of have traveled back to time. You can't interact with people, you're just an observer, but you're still like, you can view all of those things. So let's say you see
yeah,
an old recording, like a colored recording of Times Square, and a very old one, you see these people walking by, you are technically in the past, you just can't
And bro, in the
observe or
future,
change
like
anything.
literally
bro.
all of
Imagine when
Earth
they
right
make.
now has been taken pictures of through Google Earth. Like people
Yeah.
100 years from now can literally see the entire Earth.
Yeah.
100 years, that's crazy.
Imagine when
Yeah,
they make 3D holograms. Like we have
yeah,
VR.
VR and stuff. Yeah,
Imagine wearing VR and like being able to like replay memories and like, bro. I mean, this happens on like Black
the
Mirror,
Black
but
Mirror
like imagine,
episode.
No,
imagine
no,
just like
you know the गूगल का mostly
Yeah,
use
I
होता है,
saw
even
it.
GoPro का, they're 3D cameras, so you put them on a stand and they record everything around.
Yeah, yeah.
That's made so that you can use VR headsets to view things or इस तरह. That, just imagine when you go to weddings or anything like that, instead of taking proper pictures, they just install these cameras around so that in the
And then you
future when you
record
look,
them.
yeah, you could
Relive
be
the entire
in that
wedding.
moment.
Yeah.
Bro,
Yeah.
you know, I don't when we record these podcasts, I don't
Yes,
really like
man.
always watch all of them because I just said it. So I don't want to listen to myself say the same things again and again.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what
I
I
get that.
do, what I think about is that, you know, a few years from now, when I end up finding this link, like the way how we found our
Yeah,
YouTube
yeah.
or Facebook page. So the same way when I gonna like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when I go back and watch these conversations I had, I'm gonna have so much fun. Like or I'm gonna be so entertained. It's gonna be like so special for me to be able to like.
And this
Yeah.
time it's not something that stupid. It's something that's
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
actually kinda nice. So
I mean,
yeah,
but I still appreciate those also. Like
uh,
I still
s-
appreciate everything that I've made like of myself.
so
But that reminds me, bro.
wait.
I want to charge my
Is Zuby
DS.
trying to end this?
Yeah, okay. Also, I found my Game Boy and I found its charger. So I'm gonna charge that.
Oh, that's
You
nice.
know,
Game
if you
Boy
want some
was the
games, I have
Bro,
best.
I've
good
been
Game
using
Boy.
emulators like on my phone, on my laptop.
No, like an
Just
actual
you
Game
don't
Boy.
need that.
I
No,
found
but
it like the
it's a whole different thing using the actual device
no,
though.
I
Like
can't. I
That is
found the
good.
one that doesn't flip, like the
It's a
Oh,
bit
board one.
even
automatic.
I had.
Game Boy
Yeah,
Color.
yeah, yeah. The one that was like this, no? Like the
Yeah.
If you want to
yeah,
borrow
yeah,
my cartridges, you can just tell me. If you have any others, you can
Yeah, no,
use the
I
same.
okay, before we continue talking about this, just ending the podcast here.
Okay, okay.
You can watch our podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts. You can watch it on YouTube or anything. Follow us on Instagram and subscribe. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed.